Okay. Welcome everyone to Q1 Qlik WA Qlik user group, which is now called Qlik Meetup because we just joined a global Qlik Meetup group, and this is big news for us. So I will go to agenda very soon, but a couple of news first. Firstly, please welcome Chris, who joined our committee as a new member, replacing Sebastian Story from Qlik. Hello, please take a seat. And secondly, as I just mentioned, we joined a global Qlik Meetup group, which was very accidental, but just because I mentioned that we have our own WA Qlik user group here in Western Australia at our Qlik Partner Ambassador meeting, they said, "Oh, why you are not on this platform?" And I said, "Yes, sure, we're happy to join." I think all committee members would agree with that. Say yes. That was my decision, but anyway, so yes. It means a bit of budget, and I think to move our meetup closer to the city. But we will discuss it later at our small group. So anyway, so today's agenda. So firstly, we will hear from Christopher with some intro to Talend. Then Joel will share what's new in Qlik. Roberto will continue with modern HR analytics. And then Craig Harper will tell us how their upgrade went and their lessons that they learned. And Georgia will finish off our presentations from today. And after that, we will have networking downstairs for probably until 6:30 or later if you want. Great. Chris, over to you. Please come.
Do I need to speak into the microphone?
You don't need to speak to microphone, but if you stand here, everybody see you and everybody hear you.
All right. So nice to meet you all. I joined Qlik as part of the Talend acquisition. So I've been in the company for almost 8 years now. So I have a lot of knowledge and experience on the Talend side and when it comes to data integration, data management, data governance. I am learning on Qlik Analytics and Qlik integration. But we've done some transactions here in WA recently, and also I look after Queensland and WA, live in Queensland. Plan to be here every few months. So if you have any questions around Talend and you want to hear any examples, I'll be able to talk about that for as long as you want. I won't do it right now. I won't cover slides, but just think any requirement for moving data or data transformation related to data quality, that could be business rules, it could be standardizing, it could be using reference data. So we can really help with cleaning up data, and we can provide a workflow where business users can get involved for either arbitrating or validating if data is accurate or not. So great use cases in every industry. We're happy to chat to you about that later. But here I think we're going to hand over to Joel, who's going to cover the latest on Qlik. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And good. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you well, and you can share your screen so we can see it.
Yeah, awesome. Will do. So first of all, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joel Fernandez. I am based out of Sydney, so I'm coming to you from the future currently. And what I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen, but I'm going to take you through some of the roadmap and what's new for Qlik at the moment. And so before we do that, we've got to have a look at this nice long legal disclaimer, which just really says that anything we're going to look at from a roadmap perspective is subject to change, and therefore don't take it as gospel as we go through this. But to start off with, we'll just touch on the product strategy and what we're doing at Qlik and what our priorities are for 2024. So really from a Qlik perspective, there's kind of 3 core investment areas that we're looking at in our priorities for 2024. So that's data integration and quality, It's the analytics component and the cloud technology services. Now, as a company, Qlik is a cloud-first SaaS provider now, but we're not cloud only. So we're going to continue to invest in the Qlik client managed side of things, but a lot of the focus is also going to be on the cloud and the adoption of cloud services. So we still want to be able to deliver best-in-class capabilities, and we want to be able to do that. And some things will only be available on the cloud side due to certain restrictions, but the idea is that we're not going to leave the client managed side behind. It's still going to be an important part of our strategy going forward. We're also going to be doing things like creating the modern data fabric. So with the Talend acquisition and bringing that all together, we're going to see how we actually do that and strategize on that for the future. And also similarly with building AI and ML ready data pipelines and the ability to do integration with generative AI services, and our recent acquisition of Kyndi. It's going to enable us to do certain scenarios or analytics and generative AI use cases with structured and unstructured data, but also the ability to connect into various models that may be based, things like Bedrock on Amazon or OpenAI from the Microsoft side, and being able to enable that. And ultimately, we want to be able to reach more users and meet business cases where they are for customers. So our approach, I guess, our market-driven innovation really comes from the feedback from the user groups as well. So, as the forums online or any feedback that comes from user groups like this, please continue to give us your ideas and your ideation. And then we go through the prioritization of that and then the execution and adoption. So feedback is crucial and important to the strategy and the roadmap. And our three core investment areas, as spoken before, was the data integration and quality. So looking at the ability to integrate and do real-time enterprise data fabric and movement, things like change data capture and various advanced transformations. On the analytics side, we really want to be able to use AI and machine learning and present those with powerful visualizations and do that at scale and support with performance in mind. And last but not least is the cloud services that we just spoke about before, and continue to build on the cloud and continue to expand that. We just opened up data centers in Japan just recently. We just opened up a region in Japan, I should say, for cloud services, and we continue to invest in APAC around that. So what's new? Let's start with analytics before we go ahead. But what's new in analytics? So a couple of different things that we're really focusing on for the future. And one is AI-assisted authoring. So doing different types of analysis types within the authoring can't even pronounce that properly, but authoring mode, the sheet generating using best practices, and we're going to do some enhancements to the set, the AI set expression generator. Communicating insights, so being able to improve some of the things like annotations directly on there, expanding some of the natural language and some of the results that you get as part of that, and proactively sharing insights is something that's continued to be evolving. Generating insights, so key driver analysis within certain criteria. Some of the analytics sources that we're looking at here from various different places like Databricks, OpenAI, Amazon, Bedrock, those different particular models, we can be able to pull insights out of those. We can do things like filter certain data within Qlik and have those, OpenAI or another generative AI service be able to return some of those insights and analysis based upon the filtered data. And there's some great demonstrations of this already working in practice online that you can find on YouTube around Amazon Bedrock and OpenAI that are already existing at the moment. But those analysis will only continue to improve over time. And then just some other things like searching for help documentation in the apps, notifications for applications with or without business logic, and lastly, the global platform AI assistant is going to continually be improved. So you may be using Insight Advisor already, but continue to be improving that and augmenting that with various intelligence as we go along, and integrating various language models and intent recognition and natural language to go into that as well. But that's only being improved over time. So then it comes to Kyndi. You may or may not have heard, but we acquired Kyndi, and Kyndi was a great solution for looking at both structured and unstructured data and doing analysis on that and really being able to query questions. So again, if you're using the Insight Advisor, it's great for asking certain queries, show me the number of X by Y and give me and generate particular results or particular visualizations based upon that. But what if you wanted to ask business related questions and you wanted to ask those without having to structure the data and you just do analysis as part of that approach? Like how can customers accelerate how can customers accelerate that? How can we how can from a business perspective, how can we improve our bottom line? Just a simple business kind of question, and that's really where Kyndi acquisition comes in, where we can start to use the generative AI approach to that. It's not going to be the only kind of tool. Again, we're still going to have the connectors to the various other Gen AI sources like Bedrock and OpenAI, but Kyndi is going to become closely integrated into the Qlik platform as a solution to really unlock the insights of the data and being able to do some more in-depth querying and conversational intelligence within Qlik without having to necessarily connect with some of these other sources, because as you may or may not be aware, that can cause certain problems, security risks, and pushing data out from one platform to another and the likes of things like that. So with this solution, we'll be able to do it all on platform within Qlik to gather some of those particular insights. New cloud offerings as well. So a couple of different kind of solution pieces that are coming within there. Customers have vast quantities of unstructured data that find it difficult to deliver. So we're going to be focusing on some new cloud offerings that is actually going to enable them to unlock some of those answers through both internal and external experiences. Internal and external embedded search and answer experiences. So you'll be able to use some of this, for example, conversational intelligence within Qlik as a tool, but we can also embed the search capability into something like Teams or Slack or whatever it is, so that you can actually query that. Not necessarily have to be within Qlik, or it could even be embedded within a web application or another kind of tool that you may want to embed that search within, so you don't actually have to go within to Qlik. So that's going to be one particular option. And if you think of things like knowledge bases or assistant agents as well, you can use these and embed some of this particular capability into a knowledge base or an agent on things like that. So continuing to look at how else we can expand some of the cloud offerings, some of the services that are going to be integrated into the platform. Also, what else is coming? What's going to be new is there's going to be a new data preparation, tooling that's coming out. So being able to do self-service data preparation, general availability for that will, I believe, fairly soon. And so that's going to include a whole bunch of different things, like an enhanced script editor. It's integrated directly into the Qlik Sense data loader. Support for a whole bunch of different script files and scripts within Qlik Cloud, and some no-code data prep capabilities in Qlik Cloud as well. So visual data flows and single table preparations. Some other things under consideration around that, but the idea is that this is something that will be coming very soon. Enterprise reporting, collaboration and alerting. Some of you may be aware that we recently gave an update on the Qlik Cloud tabular reporting service that became available. So report template creation using data visualizations from the Qlik Sense app. And you can actually use a plugin within Microsoft 365 at the moment within Excel and the likes to actually take advantage of some of this as well. So this was something that's become general availability and continuing to be improved and worked upon at the moment. And what's coming soon for that will be PDF support and managed space support as well as part of that particular roadmap items on that. So I'm kind of rushing through because I realize I only have 10 minutes for this, and I have a lot more what's new than I realized. But Qlik Sense Client Managed, so recent updates as well, continuing to introduce some new updates around those for like bullet chart styling, KPI styling, rich text charts. Just a whole bunch of recent updates on that, and exporting functionalities for audit within Qlik Management, sticky load balancing shared between nodes, a whole bunch of different client managed kind of updates and enhancements around that coming. So that was the analytics side, but what about integration? So from an integration, we have the data products roadmap overview here. So we're going to be extending the Qlik Cloud data catalog with data products supporting the whole organization. So things like metadata management, the data stewards can have an inventory and track all the assets and pipeline and look at lineage and glossary and data quality and the rest of it. Data intelligence and DQ. So the data product managers can activate some data products for reuse and faster use case delivery. And lastly, data products and marketplace. So data consumers can easily discover and understand and consume data for analytics or application development. And so there'll be a intuitive marketplace for data products where there'll be, you can do collaboration and look at various other elements within that. So there's really a focus on data intelligence and data quality at the moment, and that will continue to evolve with the integration of Talend into Qlik's IP, and we're going to be working with Snowflake to release a few things in terms of industry-leading data quality and simplified deployment and optimized compute and various other kind of improvements around that. So stay tuned in terms of the enhancements with Snowflake for that. And also I'll focus on the data marketplace, which is set to come out and be enhanced as well. So the idea is to make the data estate easily discoverable and consumable, yet manageable. So we're going to allow data product owners to create and manage data products within here and use a data catalog just like they would with like a product document on a marketplace, as an example. And so data discovery and literacy for the whole organization, and I guess end-to-end Qlik cloud platform integration is really where we're going with all of this in the future. And last but not least, but recently we did go through the IRAP assessment, so we've completed that now. We have been assessed, and that's all done. So we've added that to our Qlik Cloud platform security and compliance. So if that's something that's relevant to you as a business, we have completed that now, and it's all done. So yeah, thanks for having me on. It's great to talk to the user group in WA, and I will pass it over to the next speaker.
Thank you, Joel. That was interesting. Do we have any questions? Any questions from online? No, doesn't look like. That's all right. Let's then over to you, Roberto. That's your time. I will just quickly switch to your presentation. I think that's the one. And here we go. Just space. Sure. Can we? Oh, I'm not sharing my screen now. Oh. Here we go. Cool. All right. So, talking about BI implemented in the human resources space. Traditionally, we think about BI in like an extension of the ERP for reporting, analysis, and we will be looking at manufacturing, production, the operational data, eventually sales, financial, and most of the time HR is left behind. And I've seen many cases that people think, oh, we have this fancy tool here, Qlik, and we have the people data. So let's build a fancy dashboard to look at our people and how many people are taking leave, these kind of things. But there's more to it, right? And this happens because the value of implementing BI in HR is largely unproven and usually isolated into the HR department itself with unlimited influence, with limited influence in other areas of the business. But we all know that workforce is changing, and I don't need to tell you how the workforce market is right now, especially here in Australia, in WA, the difficulty of finding and retaining people, right? And there are some key issues that we need to think about, like better attract and retain people, look at addressing skills shortage, right? Implementing BI in HR will involve gathering a lot of data from different sources and centralize all these large amount of data into an application or a set of applications, right? And these applications will enable all the HR professionals and other areas of the business to make better decisions.
The challenge is to compile, collect, and analyze, find out what data is relevant. Right? So we have a distributed data, employee information, timesheets, all the learning and development information, and these will be most of times in several different systems, right? But the good thing is we have Qlik, and we can build apps, not easily, but it's possible to do, right? Implementing analytics in human resources will help improve recruitment, retention, all the efficiency and costs of our workforce, and optimize workforce planning. The benefits, data-driven decision making is a benefit that works for any BI implementation, any analytics implementation. But in HR, we can look also at improving recruitment, retention, as I mentioned before, and especially start looking at workforce planning for the future. So, some examples from a few scenarios that we can find in the HR analytics space. So the first one, most obvious one, is having a overview of our workforce. How many employees we have? How many have excess leave? Diversity indicators. It's something that companies often use these days. Like how many people on, or what's the percentage of each of these cohorts we have in the company? Where are people coming from? Right. So we have a diversity community in our company. So people from different places with different languages and where they are located in terms of where they are working. Right. Then we can start looking at history. How many people started? How many people left the organization in the last 12 months, 24 months, whatever? What's the turnover? And start looking at these metrics and see, oh, okay, we're getting better, we're getting worse, we are stable, and so on. We can also look historically. For example, this dashboard shows the participation of the workforce by service years, by tenure of our employees. We can see clearly in this example, this slice in the middle, 5 to 10 years, it shrunk over the last 2 years. So obviously some people are graduate from this slice to the above, but seems like we are losing people. So we are losing knowledge, we are losing experience. So maybe we need to do something about it. Right? And then we can start looking at future. So this dashboard shows a projection of possible retirement. So if we look at retirement age at 65, there is a slider. We can play with that slider, but 65 is the average age in Australia for retirement. So considering that we already have 47 people in this age range, in 2 years, we are going to have 67 people potentially retiring. And in 5 years, 162, which is basically 10% of this population in this scenario. Right? So we start, oh, oops, we need to do something about it. Or if we don't do anything, we lose 10% of our workforce. That doesn't mean people will retire, but gives an indication. Right? And we can play with that retirement age. For example, select and filter on a job family that does like mostly labor-intensive jobs. So people on these kind of jobs, they may not retire at 60 years of age, but they will move to another position, possibly working on a desk instead of digging holes in the field. Right? Okay. We can then start combining all these things and having some views like, okay, we consider 65 the retirement age, possible retirement age. We have our turnover here around 4%, and we are recruiting this much people in average every month, right? So we can start looking, oh, okay, this is our budgeted workforce. This is our actual workforce. So there's already a gap, right? And then in 2 years' time, this much will be retiring. This much will be leaving the organization if we consider the current turnover rate. And this much will be new entrants. So we are recruiting these people. Even that, in 2 years' time, we will be having a gap of this much. So what we do, we increase recruitment, we try to convince people not to retire, we retain more people, right? So if we project these 10 years ahead, this is where we are going to be. This is the kind of do nothing or keep doing things like we do today. Right? Then there's another thing. So far, we just mentioned about the current workforce. If we have a way of projecting like we do for new investments, new equipment, new sites, new material, new everything, right? We need people for that. If we can translate all this investment into people, then we may end up with a scenario like this. So the orange line is our projected supply. So we keep hiring people, hiring and hiring more, and we are going up, which is good. But the red line shows our demand. So based in all the investments we need to do, everything which is coming up, we need that much people. So in this scenario, for this cohort, we will take around 9 years to catch up, doing things as we do now. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah. Right? So maybe hey, analytics in HR is a bit more than just looking at how many people we have, who's on leave, these kind of things. So we can start planning ahead, looking at the future, using all workforce data. And that's all for me. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. It was a surprise. Yeah, it was one of those oh shit moments, right? Yeah. There are some filters applied, so many hypothetical scenarios. So, but overall trend is that it's similar to that. So it's interesting. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. That was very interesting and entertaining. So I think, yeah. Our next speaker is Craig Harper, also from Western Power. So, and he's going to talk about their journey.
Yes, yes. The saga, yes. So, as I touched base with you last time, Western Power had a major upgrade that we went through to upgrade from February 2021 to May 2023. And this was all on-prem. So the title of the talk is At Scale. So we had, it was quite a large project. We had our own project manager. We had multiple internal resources, multiple external resources. We started in October and we finished late February. Just to give you an idea, our test environment upgrade run sheet was about 170 lines of things to do, and our production was over 200 lines of tasks that needed to be done. So there was quite a bit involved. The upgrade itself was not just Qlik. We actually upgraded all our virtual machines as well. So in all, we installed 27 new virtual machines running across 2 data centers. In total, 196 virtual CPUs. That was an uplift of about 75% and 1.53 terabytes of RAM. So I don't know other sites around Australia, but I think that's must be pretty up there in terms of size. Maybe Chris can let us know later on. So installing Windows Server 2022 on each VM, upgrading the PostgreSQL database, of course installing Qlik Sense, but we also have end printing and doing geoanalytics, and we also use Platform Manager as our version control. The upgrade timeline, we upgraded our dev environment in October, got all of our developers to go and start testing things. Originally, our plan was to upgrade prod before Christmas, 1 week after we'd upgraded test. That proved to be optimistic. We have what we call a change minimization period over Christmas. So basically, as Christmas approaches, no changes are allowed in our production environment. So that sort of put everything on hold, and we decided, okay, we're not going to get there, so let's make that call. So we deferred our upgrade to the test environment till after Christmas. We did the upgrade in January, all ready to rock and roll for our production upgrade. And then we had some very severe weather in Western Australia. And we have what we call our emergency level. As soon as that goes to a level 3, which it did, no changes are allowed in our production environment. So basically we had quite a few weeks where everything was falling over and had to be replaced. So we couldn't upgrade our production environment until mid-February. So the lessons learned. This was a complex project with many moving parts. It takes a lot of time and effort to plan and execute this type of project. And really the lesson here is don't take shortcuts. You've got to manage expectations up front. So don't promise that, oh, yeah, we're going to get this done in 2 weeks. That ain't going to happen. I have a saying that the long way is the short way. You know, slow and steady wins the race. You need to manage those expectations with the powers that be that, you know, this is not a small undertaking. This is a big project. The main roadblocks that we faced that cost us a lot of time, obviously the Christmas change minimization and the severe weather that I mentioned, but also when we were actually doing the installations, things like reconfiguring the DNS endpoints, it just took forever. There was just some really hairy technical problems that we ran into. Nothing really to do with Qlik, but it was just those annoying technical glitches and roadblocks that come up. So the lesson here is, you know, expect the unexpected. Whenever you're going to do a big hairy project like this, something's going to come out of left field. You just need to allow for that in your run sheets and in your planning. Be flexible and have the skilled resources on hand. So we were lucky that when we were doing the upgrades, we made sure that we had people from our Wintel team who could come in and save the day with the various DNS routing problems that we had. There were many gotchas along the way that required detailed product knowledge and experience to resolve. And the input that we had from our external resources, who were spread from Sydney to Singapore to India to South Africa, was really invaluable. So we would have really struggled without having those that input from those other people. So the lesson there really is use external resources if you don't have your own internal resources available. Bring them on board early. And I think this is, if we had our time again, we would have done that a lot earlier, is to bring that expertise onto the project earlier than what we did, so that we could get their knowledge and experience to help kickstart and perhaps shorten that time frame a bit. Just a seemingly obvious thing. When you've got people in Sydney and Singapore and Perth and India and South Africa, you try and organise an online meeting where everyone can attend, because the time difference is quite substantial. But it does show, though, that the modern technology like we are using here with Teams and so on, it actually worked really well. We were able to run meetings across different continents and many different time zones, and it actually worked quite well. Mind you, it did mean that some people were staying up late in Sydney and getting up early in South Africa, but that wasn't me, so I didn't care. One of the advantages of paying the bills is that you get to set the time of the meeting and the other people have to follow suit. But it does show you the modern communication networks and Teams type software really does work well. And the ability to share screens and do recordings is really come a long way. Another learning was that we had issues pop up in prod that we hadn't picked up in our test environment. And that's because those components simply don't exist in our test environment. And an example there, we have what we call our eQubity library. And we also have a mechanism to do load balancing for what we call large loads using a specific scheduler virtual machine. Now, all those things exist in prod, but they don't exist in test. So when we were doing our testing in test, ready to do the prod, and we thought everything's all good to go. We do the prod upgrade and then boom, and all these things come out of the left field. The lesson there is we need to much more closely align our test and prod environments so we don't get this mismatch between those two environments. There shouldn't be any surprises when you're doing the prod upgrade after you've successfully done the test upgrade. And we didn't pass that one. we had quite a few things pop out. So when you're doing prod, it should all run smoothly because you've figured out all of the issues in your test environment. A good learning for next time. Another lesson, getting the comms out to the relevant stakeholders, whether they're the developers, the end users, the key stakeholders. That's a really difficult balancing act, because if you send out too much comms, it just, annoys the hell out of people. But if you don't send out enough, then they get really annoyed. So getting that balance between overloading people with message after message and then, on the other hand, not telling them enough, that's a real challenge. So identifying who the target audiences are and tailoring your comms for those audience at somehow an agreed frequency, and getting the agreed frequency is the difficult bit. And using a variety of media, so emails, we used the chat groups in Teams extensively, especially for our Qlik developers. so that we could post messages very quickly and holding meetings, obviously. The key there is keeping the comms short and to the point and allow people to opt out if they so desired. So we actually had people saying, look, stop sending me this stuff. So, okay, take them off the email list. So there was a lot to do. And I've already indicated, you know, we installed all of these VMs and all the software, and we had to work with file shares and data connections, DNS endpoints and load balancing rules. There was a lot to do. Did we try and do too much? I've sort of thought about this question. I don't think we did try to do too much. In fact, we actually dropped out quite a bit of things, a few things. So we removed we were originally going to try and remove all our unsupported extensions and to cull out superfluous apps and tasks and security rules. We just sort of dropped that because we knew we weren't going to get there. Maybe we could have upgraded Platform Manager as a separate thing and not do that all in one hit. But really, because this was such a big undertaking to not just upgrade Qlik, but install all the new VMs as well, we kind of had to do it all at once. And now that that's been done, we're not likely to do that again for quite some time. It just happened to be that this particular upgrade was a big one. And lastly, this upgrade was a really good advertisement for Qlik Sense as a service in the cloud. And I'm being a bit flippant here, but going to the cloud does mean complex and time-consuming on-prem upgrades like this would be a thing of the past, because Qlik manage all of those upgrades for you. But rest assured, there'd undoubtedly be a new set of issues to resolve. So just because you solve one problem, others would pop up. But it is something that we as an organisation will certainly look at in the future to see what moving to the cloud would mean for us, and is it worthwhile still having on-prem as our Qlik environments. That's all I got. Any questions? We basically have about 4,000 people at Western Power, and there'd be 2,000 people who use it. It is very widely used. Our Qlik developer base, the people who actually try and build things, there's obviously a scale of people who are experts down to sort of not so expert. There's about 100 people who build stuff, who at least we've got 100 people in our Qlik developer user group, and we targeted those people who we figured out who's been building apps in the last 6 to 12 months, and we've got those on contact. It is definitely a well-used tool in the organisation. And as we get better at building apps and so on, and George is going to show some stuff right now, which is proved to be very, very useful. Yeah. So yeah, that storm, that's all George's fault. Anyway, I'm going to hand over to Georgia, who's going to give us some real examples of how Qlik is used.
Thank you, Craig. Do you need access to Western Power?
For now.
That's not for now.
Presentation.
Okay.
If we want to, we can.
Yep, sounds good to me. So that's the one.
Yes.
And here we go. And by the way, do we have any questions from online participants for Craig? No. Okay, that's good. So, Georgia.
All right, thank you very
Please.
much. I'm probably even too short here. Is that That's all right. So I just want to introduce myself as well. My name's Georgia Stafford. I am, again, at Western Power, as Craig alluded to. I'm in the network operations team. And so we are the ones, I suppose, managing the grid, managing their outages and looking at who has power, who doesn't have power, planned outages and all those sorts of things. So when, and we do use Qlik quite heavily, we have a tool which will look at the current outages. It refreshes every 5 minutes and will basically say who has lost power today, right now, who's got power back on. But we also have another app that we use quite extensively as well. And generally we load about 12 months of all incidents across the network. So this is planned incidents, unplanned incidents, incidents that cause outages, incidents that don't cause customers to lose power. From there, we then can actually work out so much information that we really, the function hadn't really been using up until probably, maybe 2021? Probably Christmas heatwave 2021. And I think I know a few things changed after that. And actually last time I was here, I presented on how we used Qlik in the heatwave of 2021. We had a big parliamentary inquiry, and there was a lot of information needed about how we handled that and how we restored customers. So fast forward to today and the next government, ERA, and we have our submission and how we get our funding. And basically we have been set by, in our AA5 submission, we've been set a bit of a challenge and a potential fine. Our performance of our customers who live on what we call rural long feeders, so really they're feeders that are over 200 kilometres in length, their reliability and their performance isn't that great in a lot of instances. So we basically have been told that we face an $88 million fine, except they're also going to provide us with some funding, $88 million, to improve the network. But if we don't improve our rural reliability, then we get fined that $88 million plus, if we haven't made a good decision, we get a write down. So we potentially are facing a cost of $176 million if we don't do a good job. So it's no pressure. It's a little bit of it's become one of the organisation's strategic initiatives to how can we solve the rural reliability problem within Western Power. So I guess, and it's been given to our function to sponsor. We have a lot of information and a lot of people already looking at reliability, and we have separate measures like SAIDI that look at how we are performing from a reliability perspective. The key difference that has been asked of us this time is that we have a customer felt experience. And so we had to come up with, what does that mean? What's our problem? We wanted to basically look at this problem without any bias in fresh. So essentially, we are looking at pilot areas. It's not to solve it. The $88 million isn't to solve it, because it would take actually quite probably a lot more money to solve it. But it's to look at the rural long and to look at some pilot programs and to see and measure the performance and the benefits of those. So in short, this is a map of our rural long feeders all across the Southwest integrated system. So we have 273 towns in here. We have 98,000 customers, 84 feeders, but we're covering 47,000 kilometres of overhead lines. And so we have to try and figure out how we can improve that. And I guess it's a bit daunting, to say the least, and to improve the customer's felt experience at the same time, to make sure we're not just sort of making the stats look good, but the actual customers are happier. They go to our ERA and they get a bit of a hard time when they go out to the country, and I think they just don't want to be blasted every time they go out. So we needed to put on a customer felt experience lens, also a protection device lens. So looking at our assets and our customers. I wanted to look at the analysis without any bias. So we have a lot of information. We have hotspots that have been identified based on number of complaints. We have all the SAIDI statistics and all the other reliability statistics. But we wanted to start afresh. So we grabbed and I extended my historical dashboard that only had about 12 months in there. And I think I've put about 4.5 years in there at the moment. And we built a Qlik app. I wouldn't say it's a dashboard. It's really an app to use as a problem-solving tool to work out what is the problem, to work out how are we going to solve this problem. We don't want to limit ourselves in any way. It's not a dashboard. It's not a report. It's just an analytical tool that we're going to deep dive down into, and we're constantly adding more data, changing the back end to suit. Basically, as me and one other guy who's using it. But it's just our analytical tool. So we used Qlik, and we started doing a lot of X-sifting of data, just trying to understand trends and what's happening. So a little bit of a disclaimer, I'm not a technical expert like Craig. I'm probably more of a storyteller / hacker. I'm not that technical expert. When people go, well, what's your role? I said, well, I'm a business analyst, but I think I'm just a storyteller. I just tell stories.
Not true.
Sorry, Craig?
No, some of them true.
Some of them are true. And if they're not true, make a good one up. So look, I started looking at things like time of day, time of year, outage count, duration, weather in the season. I even looked at looking at all of our outages across the Swiss and actually aligning them to the Noongar seasons, and then even seeing if there's any sort of similarities between the causes of the incidents, and does lightning cause incidents at certain Indigenous seasons of the year across the Swiss, and really quite, just that might not be more of a data-driven decision-making, but it might be quite useful from a communications perspective. So not everything actually had to create decision-making, but some of it just needed to be a communication tool that we could actually go back and see that we're using a different lens and things like that. So I'm just going to show some of the descriptive statistics, that we pulled up. We were looking at just some of, and these are pretty standard sort of charts and pie charts and durations, and by LGA that we looked at by the local government area. Really, we felt we weren't really, we're looking at things that we've always looked at. We weren't really getting anywhere. We're seeing problems, but we weren't able to narrow down the action that we needed to take. So then we started looking at some check sheets. And so we started looking at the type of asset failure, or not failure, but the type of protection device that tripped versus the time of day. And is there any similarities between depots or areas, or between the protection devices themselves? Because some protection devices we can operate remotely, and some we actually have to visit in order to, say, replace the fuse on a low voltage fuse trip, or on a dropout fuse we physically have to go to site to do it. And that started to be quite telling about certain different things. About, we could see some shift patterns in the workforce happening in there as well. And by time of day, and by seasons, by month, by cause, we kind of started really it was a really X-sifting kind of process, trying to just come up with some hypothesis. But again, we were sort of struggling to get the direction out of it. Where we ended up landing, what we can see here is, so if I go to that stage duration, this is stage count. So we had like recloser trips, which is that darker line just at the bottom here. It's just a type of protection device. We see majority of our recloser trips were happening between 8 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then if we have a look at the duration of those recloser trips, it was starting to become apparent that the longer duration was happening if the recloser tripped after 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So we could manage the volume of recloser trips happening during the early hours of the working day, but we were starting to struggle as the day progressed. And that in itself is, I guess, an opportunity still to be explored. as to why. But it was, again, hard to narrow down to come up with a pilot area. How can this improve specific customer felt experiences, and what would you do? It's still too broad. This was the one I was talking about before, where we started looking at the incidents by the Noongar calendar and the cause. And so you can see here where lightning was becoming quite common in the Bunaroo season and then the Birak season as well. So it was real, and we've just come out of Bunaroo. So, and that's where we had all of our major storms and storm cells that prevented Craig's upgrade from happening. Sorry. Look, 30,000 customers. So what we ended up doing in here, I'll go to the next one. So we came up with, I guess, an idea, and we went back to having a look at the request, which was to improve customer felt experience, pilot some areas, but we also have the NQRS code. So this is the legislation that we operate under, and we are 290 minutes is what we're meant to be fixing incidents by. So we ended up, I spent quite a bit of time with some of our functional support guys saying, help me, I want to do a driver tree. I want to do a driver tree to try and navigate down and display this information, but I couldn't find something that was good enough, that was meeting my needs. So I came up with a whole lot of KPI metrics, and we built this asset driver tree where we can have a look at a device. We came up with it. If that device goes off more than once, we need to look at it this is over 3 years. Does it affect more than 30 customers? Let's have a look at that device. And has it taken us longer than 290 minutes to restore that customer? And if so, let's have a look at them. So we came down, if you have a look on the screen, we came down to having, say, 470 devices, and it was usually impacting a really, high percentage of the customers' outage times. And so this is a very high level one, but we're drilling down into specific feeders in the pilot areas that we're looking at. And we could actually see that we got down to, say, like 10 recloser trips that we were focused on for one of our worst performing feeders. And so we now have 10 protection devices to investigate that will return 80% of the benefit back to the organisation. So that is where it's still in operation. We're still having a look at that. But then what we also did was I got the line geometry of all of our distribution network and all of our distribution feeders, and I loaded that into Qlik, and then overlaid the latitude, longitude of where our incidents were occurring. So this is on our longest feeder, Katanning 509. This feeder is how many kilometres? Do you remember, Craig? 600 kilometres long in total. It's how long in, I don't know. It starts in Katanning and it goes all the way through Ravensthorpe up to Lake King. And so what I have displayed here is all of our recloser devices that have tripped. I don't know the time period, but you can start to see here the greater the bubble is the number of times that single device has tripped. So what we did with the repeat asset driver tree that we did, we came up with, say, 9 devices. We could look at them on the map and work out exactly where they are on our feeder. And then we've actually been handing that then over to our asset performance team and to our grid transformation team to investigate the options on how to fix it. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking and we'll pilot some improvements and hopefully spend our $88 million wisely and improve the customer felt experience. But that's probably about it. I can show you, like, we've really got it so that it's so dynamic, and you'll drill down. The asset driver tree will just drop off who it doesn't need to look at, and then you've got all the incidents, all the assets, all the customers. You can see exactly who we're going to impact, how many outages that they've had over the last year, and the impact, so we can calculate out benefits as well that the pilot will be able to achieve. Yeah. Any questions? No worries.
Thank you very much, Georgia. So, any questions from our online audience? I don't think there's anything. At least I don't hear anything. Where is our presentation? This one. So, couple of things from me. So, you know that we've got another 3 meetings this year, which are going to happen on 30th of May, 29th of August, and 38th. Oh, oops, 30th of November. 38, yeah. Seems to be December then, but so, but anyway, if you have anything to share, please come and please just contact me, and we will definitely arrange something, because thanks for Western Power team, because this particular session was covered basically by Western Power. Thank you very much. But it would be great to have also other perspective, like for example, David, or maybe Ryan, or maybe Richard. So yeah. So anyway, if you have anything to share, please contact, and we will definitely include you in. So as I mentioned before, we have three more meetings this year, and this is our list of new list of committee members. If you want to join, there is still one slot. You can also, if raise your hand and join us. And this is it for today. So any questions?